Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones. And in this segment, I want to talk about free speech and unity. So, the title of this morning's video is, let's talk about free speech and unity. Simple title for simple topic. Now let's get into it. Now, when we talk about free speech, and I want everybody to understand this, we look at speech that is protected no matter what is said. See, a number of us believe that free speech is speech that we all agree with. No. Free speech is all speech. Now, let me give you an example of some ignorance that comes out of people's mouths. You look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman from New York. Now, she talks about some of her colleagues in the Republican Party as being white supremacists. Well, does she know what white supremacy means? See, a lot of us use words out of context, but we use those words as a point of thinking that we're educated, but we really aren't. We're really ignorant. But her speech, even though she said some of her colleagues were white supremacists, that speech should be protected. Look at the Ku Klux Klan. I don't agree with anything about the Ku Klux Klan. The Klan is basically non-existent. They're now called the Invisible Empire. But their speech should be protected as well. Look at some of these black nationalists out here. Reverend Wright. Look at the pastor who became the senator from Georgia, Raphael Warnock. Now, I'm not a fan of pastors, but their speech should be protected. You look at people like Barbara Lee on the left. You look at the feminists. I don't agree with anything they say. But their speech should be protected. But with all that being said, the individuals that I just mentioned were all on the left. But what about individuals on the right? Like David Duke. Because David Duke was a Klan member. No one respects David Duke, and they don't believe that his speech is free speech, but they believe Robert KKK Byrd, the late senator from West Virginia, he said he's seen all kinds of niggers. White niggers, black niggers. But the liberal left let that speech go. But David Duke, if he had said something, they would not have let that speech go. You see, when we talk about this free speech, we're actually entering a generation of extreme sensitivity because a number of individuals are very offensive. I mean, you look at something that just happened, if you are aware, this came last year, when Aunt Jemima, her face was removed off of pancake mix and a bottle of syrup. And see, a number of us, when it comes to free speech, it's led into this cancel culture. Now, this is not new, because this PC really started back when Clinton was in office. It wasn't as prevalent, but it began to grow. And it comes from the left. And one must understand that when one side is doing all the name calling, like racist and homophobe and xenophobe, well, they're the ones who are the racists, the homophobes, and the xenophobes, because they're using divide and conquer or identity politics. But when it comes to free speech is under attack. I mean, you have individuals like the former president who can't even get on Twitter and say what he wants to say. You had Parler. A number of the conservatives went over to Parler. I even had an account over there on Parler. Now, Parler is coming back, but it's going to be on a different server. But Google, Amazon, and there's another in Facebook or Apple. Apple is another browser. Well, or another app. They didn't honor Parler's app, so Parler had to go under a new server. Now, I'm saying all this because when you cancel out free speech, you basically cancel out your own freedom. You see, the cancel culture equals totalitarianism. Now, in this country, you're never going to unify. This is why I'm talking about unity and free speech. You are never going to unify unless you can get together and talk about the issues. Now, too many of us here in the United States are very emotional, especially black people. If I go out and ask an African-American person today why they voted for Joe Biden, they're going to give me some off-the-wall answers like, well, he was the better guy. Well, what makes him the better guy? What are his policies? So you can't even have that discussion, because if you point out the policies that Trump made and it benefited black people, well, black people aren't going to look at the policies. They're going to look at the man, because the media told black people that Trump was racist. So when you have two sides of the same coin not listening to one another, you can't unify. Now, it's funny how the left wants unification, but during the 4 years of President Trump, the left tried to do everything to besmirch this man. I mean, they're even going through a second impeachment, which to me is unconstitutional, because he didn't incite a riot. And if you want to talk about unity, look at Maxine Waters. She was saying if there's anybody from the Trump administration out and about, you get in their face and you tell them they're not wanted. That's inciting violence right there. You had Nancy Pelosi. You had Kamala Harris. Oh, these riots aren't going to stop. So you have people like Black Lives Matter and Antifa actually committing all the violence, but yet the media gives them a pass. But when it comes to this incident that happened at the Capitol, the media is blaming Trump supporters, which, believe it or not, Antifa infiltrated into that capital as well. But when it comes to free speech and unification, we're never going to unify in this country because the left doesn't want to hear what the right has to say. In fact, the left believes that people who voted for Trump need to be deprogrammed. It's like putting them in concentration camps. And see, when it comes to free speech, the left in this country really doesn't want free speech. They want their speech. And when you hear words like multiculturalism, diversity, one must understand this. Those are words of a Marxist. Now, the funny thing about the individuals on the left, do you really believe in your mind that they want socialism? Take everybody on the left and send them to a socialist country, they'll be back as fast as you sent them. Because they know that socialism will never work. You got people like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. They made a lot of money here. Do you think they want a socialist country to where 70 to 90% of their income is going to be confiscated from them? Do you think they want the government to control everything? No, they don't. Tyranny won't benefit any of us. And see, when I talk about free speech, it goes into other areas. Second Amendment rights. You should have a right to bear arms. But see, in the African American community, they don't talk about the right to bear arms. They want to get rid of guns. However, if you look in these urban areas like Chicago and Baltimore and Detroit, LA, and even some of the other cities that are predominantly white, like Indianapolis and Columbus, well, who's killing who? Black on black crime is up. But African Americans don't believe in a right to bear arms. Now you have a number of feminists out here who support the LGBTQ movement. But here's the problem with that. Now you're going to have men competing in women's sports. And at the end of the day, that just puts women further and further behind. You see, when you talk about equality, what they really mean is equity. See, equality means giving everybody an equal opportunity. Equity means the result is the same. Well, realistically, that will never happen. But when we talk about free speech, without free speech, we're going to have a true cancel culture. And if you look at the commercials, some of these shows on TV, the media creates this image that men are bumbling idiots, women are smarter. Blacks are still victims. Women are still victims. You're talking about that house of darkness. Well, when you have a media, when you have an education system, when you have a religious system that promotes all of these left-wing values, there's where you have the cancel culture. And you have our president signing executive orders, stop the funding of the wall. He's being pulled by his constituents on the left. And in the end, what's going on in this country, I see no leadership. Because even the leaders have fallen for the no free speech. The leaders in this country can't even talk about issues without offending somebody. And with the lack of free speech and this cancel culture, one thing that I'm going to tell you is we have gone from a country of adults to basically a country of immaturity. I mean, people will snitch on you if you don't wear a mask. I know I had an email sent to me months ago, and I don't know who did it, at work, because I walked around with no mask on. You see, if you wear a mask and I don't have a mask, you're basically protecting me from getting COVID. And see, I've had 2 COVID tests already, and I come up negative. I always stand 6 feet away. But when you have this cancel culture, what it's producing is idiotic policies, like wearing masks. Nobody can prove to me that this mask saves lives. Okay. The economy. You know, when Joe Biden stopped that XL pipeline and fracking, those are jobs lost. And see, all this is being put together in what I call the soup, so we all can depend on the government. And if we truly want unity in this country, we're going to have to understand both sides of the equation and come up with a resolution. Because the left is winning the battle of the rhetoric right now. But here's the problem with the left. They eventually eat their own as well. Because the people in power want to maintain their power. I mean, you look at this trading going on with GameStop. Well, a lot of the little guys are doing the investing. The big guys don't want that. See, what the real deal is when it comes to free speech, the big corporations like Facebook and Twitter and Amazon and Walmart, they want to dominate the market. This is why they believe in the $15 an hour minimum wage, because they can pay $15 an hour where the little guys can't. Because when it comes to the cancel culture, when it comes to the free speech, you also have to add free market. You see, it's a domino effect here. When you lose free speech, there's no more innovation. Second Amendment is gone. And the Democrats still want to pack the court. They still want to make Washington, D.C. a state. They want to keep themselves in power so we don't have to hear from the other side. And that's dangerous. Now, I believe that the socialism is a trend here in the United States. Do you really believe that a number of individuals want socialism? No, they don't. It sounds good. They don't want to live under tyranny, because tyranny oppresses people. But going back to the cancel culture, let's talk about this impeachment. I mean, Donald Trump is being impeached for the second time. And I just call it fake impeachment because the House can impeach, but it's the Senate that actually has the power to remove the president. And I'm going to tell the Democrats something. You impeach this president once, you've impeached him twice. It's going to hurt your chances, if there's smart voters out there in 2022, to reclaim the House. Because I remember back in the late 90s, and I'm going to go out my way to say this, Bill Clinton shouldn't have been impeached, but the Republicans, and that started this BS impeachment over the character, I don't want to use the word character, over someone you don't agree with, because they didn't like Clinton. And it really hurt the Republicans' chances in the House during I believe the 2000 midterms or the 2002 midterms. Either way, during that period, they were hurt. And see, the cancel culture wasn't prevalent then, but it was underground as well. Political correctness ran amok then too, but it's more prevalent now in the media. It's prevalent now in institutions of higher learning. And I'm going to do a video on college being more of a indoctrination camp rather than an educational institution. So be looking out for that video. But going back to this unity, you don't have free speech, you will never unify. And it's funny how the left is calling for unity, yet during the past 4 years of the Trump administration, there was no unity. I mean, they did everything to try to besmirch everybody on the right. And now they want everybody on the right to come together. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because you have one segment of this country who believes that their voices haven't been heard. And you have the other segment of this country who has won the battle of the rhetoric, and they believe that they own everyone in this country. They're the most powerful. They're the supreme. The left believes that they're supreme over everybody. And what they do, they'll call you a white supremacist. They'll call you a coon. They'll call you homophobic, xenophobic, if you don't agree with their platform. Now again, people have a right to free speech. And I will never ever be against free speech. But if you're going to have free speech, you should have free speech that everybody has a right to say what they want to say. All free speech should be protected. And in the end, maybe we will get some type of unity. But right now, the country is divided. And it's going to become more and more divided because we have people who are going on with this impeachment. I mean, Donald Trump has been out of office, and Joe Biden, he agrees with the impeachment, apparently. I mean, he's supposed to be the leader of the free world, but he's not even saying anything. And see, the reason why they want to convict Trump, it's not that he did anything wrong, because President Clinton didn't do anything wrong. Heck, both of the Kennedys were playing ping pong with Marilyn Monroe. A lot of us knew it. But in the end, the Kennedys had their positions. You look at Bill Clinton. He remained president. But the bottom line, when it comes to what's going on right now, is cancel culture. We have too many people out here who are, number one, they're ignorant. Number two, they don't want to hear what the other side has to say. I mean, when we talk about true diversity, that's also unification, because it's the diversity of ideas. And a lot of us don't want diversity of ideas. In fact, wrapping it all up, a number of us want government to do everything for us. But when your government has too much power, you have less rights. And for individuals who vote for totalitarianism, the government will do all kinds of slick moves to take your Second Amendment rights away, like buyback programs. When we talk about income, universal basic income, you see, when you're not in tune to the lingo, you fall for it. And what the government, the people of power want, they want ignorance. Because ignorance keeps them in power. They don't want unification. Because when people truly unify, they have free speech, they have a hand on the government. But a number of individuals, they want dependency on the government. They think they're getting something free. You're not getting anything free. You're just getting more and more of your rights extracted away from you. Because in the end, one must understand, when you don't have free speech, Second Amendment goes away, free market goes away, so that means you lose choices of where you want to spend your money. Entrepreneurship goes away because the government will make it very difficult for people to start businesses. And also, right to liberty goes away. And I've always said it in my videos, if you want freedom, you got to fight for it. But right now, we have too many people that are over emotional, ignorant, and they don't understand what free speech is. When I talk about free speech, it's any speech. And that's speech that I don't agree with. And when you eliminate free speech and you go to the cancel culture, then you have the power or the elites doing the thinking for you. And at the end of the day, you are the ownership, and you're responsible for what you say, not the government. The government should not tell you how to think, how to feel. But in the end, if you want freedom, then we must dissolve the cancel culture, because the cancel culture makes no sense. And number two, we must utilize common sense, not emotion. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show, right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And I want everybody to like the videos, and please donate if you can. I have a PayPal, Venmo, and a Cash App. The links are right at the bottom of my videos. And if you're looking for some STEM education, check out the Mind of STEM channel. On that channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And I have a blog talk radio show. 215-383-5785 is the number. I'm going to be doing more of those shows. I've been a little bit busy. That's why I haven't done blog talk radio in a while. And if you cannot find me on YouTube or blog talk radio, you can always find me on MeWe, Parler. I have a Parler account that's coming back up, and you can check me out on Twitter. And again, what I'm telling you all is, please like the video. Please subscribe to this channel. It's a small channel, but I give you information just like the bigger channels, because at the end of the day, I want to leave you with this. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And I want everybody to also have their belief in God, have their belief in one another, because if we're going to have unity, we have to listen to one another, whether we agree with one another. Because in the end, this country will not last with totalitarianism. So again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Please have a wonderful and gracious day. God bless you.